Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. We have seen in the previous tutorial how to conduct tests, especially integration tests in Laravel. Let's create with the same thing a new test, user API test. We're going to use refresh database trait. We'll create some dummy data. It's going to be the user model that we will make tests on. Product model, override the method setup. In each test, we would like to create some random user from the factory and create. Let's create a random product. Product model will create from its factory a random product. And for cleanup purposes, we're going to override the function tear down. Whenever we are done with the test, we're going to delete the newly created random user. So we are done setting up our test class. First of all, we're going to define the endpoint to test and the payload, because this is a post method. What is the payload here? So the email, simply it's going to be the user email, and the password, it's going to be password. Let's look for user factory. If we provide a password, we're going to take this password. Otherwise, we will make password ourselves from this password key or this password string. So we're going to compare the hashing value against the password sentence or password string. Now we have to act. We will make sure it's successful, and that's enough. So let's go, and it has successfully logged in the user with the correct credentials, email and password. Let's test if the register function can detect if we have provided a duplicated email. API endpoint and the payload. So let's act, and we will make sure that we will get assert bad request. Why we have done bad request? Because if you do remember, previously we have defined our register request, and if there is anything that will make the validation fail, it's going to be given with the code HTTP bad request. All right, let's see what's going to happen. Nice. We need to make sure that our logout function is working correctly. There is a helper function in Sanctum that's going to authenticate the user for testing purposes. It's going to be Sanctum acting as set the current user for the application with the given abilities for this user that we have created, and we will act. What is the API endpoint? So let's define here the API endpoint. Its assert is successful, which means that we have successfully deleted all the tokens and regenerated the session, and the session is going to work here. And we're going to assert the JSON has this data. So the data that we are about, or that we have to check, is true. And that's it. And we have to make sure that there is no saved token. Make another assertion here. This and assert count. It has to be 0, of course. We will do this user and tokens. This value should be null. Otherwise, the function or logout function did not delete all the generated tokens for this particular user. One last assertion, because we have logged out. Let's assume that we have logged out the user. We need to make sure that this particular user is no longer authenticated. So how to do that? We will do another endpoint. Let's call it is authenticated. By calling this is authenticated endpoint, it's going to give us is unauthorized status. So get JSON, the is authenticated endpoint, and let's assert unauthorized. So let's run the test, and the test fails. I guess, in my opinion, it has to do with how Sanctum are saving the user into memory. So the only actually workaround that I found is to do this, and we have to access the application to make sure and to make the application re-evaluate the test re-evaluate the saved user into memory. So get, and the guard, it's going to be auth. The function is forget guards. So after adding this function forget guards, it's going to make the test re-evaluate the saved authenticated user. So let's run the function. Test passes with green flying colors. So now we are sure that the logout function is working perfectly fine. The other function that we have to test is gonna be the function that will check if the user is authenticated or not. With the same here, we will act as this user is gonna be the authenticated user. This and get JSON and the API endpoint that we have to define. Going to rename the variable, and the first assertion, it has to be successful. Just going to assert a fragment of the JSON structure, and we'll make sure that the first of all are just the name of the user has the same name as the authenticated user. So that's pretty much it. Let's run the test. Great, so we have the authenticated user with the correct data. You can add other assertions or other fields for that matter, but just gonna keep it simple. Now we have to test the toggling the product into the wishlist for the current user with the same way, and let's define the endpoint and we will act. First assertion, it has to be successful. Fragment of the data that we will get from the response. We only gonna do in wishlist, so in order not to do some typo or something in wishlist. And after adding it, it should be true. By the same logic, we're going to do the other one. This other, it tests add or delete wishlist item should remove product to wishlist. So for the endpoint, it's gonna be the same thing. I'm gonna act with the same way. We have to add another thing here. We need to create the wishlist. So wishlist, it's gonna be wishlist, and we're going to create a new one. And I have noticed something here that we have forgot to attach the product ID. So product ID and here user ID. And we have the endpoint. We can act as this user. Now we gonna assert it's false. Last but not least, we need to delete this created user after we finish the test. So let's run the two functions. So we have successfully added and deleted products to the wishlist. Let's call it a day by running this last test. The get user wishlist should get the authenticated user wishlist. First things first, I guess we have to do this, except we're not gonna create a wishlist. So we're going to do stuff differently this time. And let's take this endpoint, gonna pass it here. We're going to add a new wishlist to the user wishlist because it's empty at this point. After doing that, we will act and assert, and we will do endpoint act again. So first assertion status 200. We will assert that the JSON count is gonna be 1 because we want to make sure that we have only one item. We only need to test that we have one item that has been added because we have run this API endpoint from here. And we're gonna make sure that we have only one item added to the wishlist. We will assert portion of the data contain the title of the product. Let's go. Let's run again the product test. And let's run the user test. For the next tutorial, in the first part, we will install all the necessary packages to handle or to implement the front end, because now we are done with the back end. I'm going to install TypeScript. I'm going to install all the necessary packages such as Vuetify, Vue, Pinia, and using Vuetify for dependency injection and theming and whatnot. So I'm going to learn a lot from this. That's pretty much it for this tutorial. I hope you liked the video and happy coding.